Welcome to Little City, Big Voices, a podcast where we share the real stories of those who love, empower, and champion children and adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities and mental health challenges. These are the voices of a community united by compassion, driven by purpose, and deeply committed to creating a world where everyone belongs. I'm your host, Rich Bobby, CEO of Little City. Little City's vision is to provide a place where everyone can feel included in their community, have someone they can call a friend, and continuously learn and build new skills. On episode 8 of Little City Big Voices, we'll be talking with Quinette Hobson-Robb, Executive Director of the Schaumburg Township Mental Health Board. Quinette was named to this role in 2024 and brings a wealth of knowledge and experience ranging from military service to behavioral health, case management, compliance, and community mental health. She is a licensed clinical social worker, a veteran, a mom, a wife, and most importantly, a human first. The Schaumburg Township Mental Health Board has been a dedicated supporter of Little City's Day Services program for over a decade, helping us provide meaningful growth opportunities for our participants. We're so grateful for this long-standing partnership and commitment to our mission. Stay with us. It's going to be a great conversation about mental health in the community and how we can make an impact for the people we serve. So, Quinette, you go by Quinn?
Yes.
Okay, I'll call you Quinn.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here and support Little City and have conversation around this topic.
Well, very excited to have you. I've heard so many great things about what you're doing, about your leadership, and how you're really taking mental health to the next level for the Schaumburg Township. And we certainly, as shared in the beginning, we greatly appreciate your partnership, your leadership, collaboration, and supporting the individuals and families that we support at Little City, especially in our day services that's located in Schaumburg. So we just want to first start off by saying thank you for your collaboration and partnership and really for making sure that the folks we serve are better off.
Yeah, that's what I love the mission of Little City. I'm just always so impressed by the number of things you do out here. And that's what I say, like, I am not the expert. What I do is not the important work. So that's why I'm just thankful that you support our residents and bring these great services right in our neighborhood. So thank you to you and your team.
Can you just tell us about who is Quinn?
That's what mom, social worker, that wife, and like I said, I am human first. I feel like we have kind of lost that, so I always clarify that there's so many times we step into a room and it's what hat we're wearing or what role, and I think that we see it widely right now that times are uncertain, and I think we all have to get back to kind of putting that human foot first and remembering that those interactions we're having are also just with other humans that have very busy lives and uncertain things going on. We're all balancing so much that I think that if you can just come with some grace and remember that we're all balancing so many things that you can just get a lot further.
I love that. I mean, I love that concept of being human first because you're absolutely right. And I am with you on this. And by the way, I'm a social worker too. So I love the fact that I'm biased here, that I'm
Yeah.
talking to another social worker. Is what I find interesting is that our human brain can easily compartmentalize and make you non-human in an instant if we want to. At the same time, we could flip that script and make somebody human by understanding and really empathizing about their circumstances. So I would love to dive deeper into this.
Yeah.
So we could parking lot this, but I want to learn more about you first. So what led you to the Schaumburg Township Mental Health Board?
That's what I was at the McHenry County Mental Health Board. So that's what in the world of mental health boards, there's not a lot of positions or openings or room for growth. And it just so happened I was working on a project there and saw there was an opening in Schaumburg, and it was a new board, which was really exciting to me. But even, I mean, getting to the mental health board in McHenry County, it's funny. As a social worker, I swore off macro work. I'm like, no, I'm clinical till I die. That's what I will always be working with the people. And then in my internship, I ended up plopped in the grant office because, of course, grant offices never have enough people, especially in the nonprofit world. So they're like, hey, our one grant person needs help balancing all of this. So I started dabbling in kind of the world of grants and found that I actually enjoyed it. I didn't wanna let anybody really know that as a social worker, as I was still going the clinical track. But then also working with that nonprofit, I started sitting in on their audits with the mental health board and doing some of that oversight and helping implement new reporting and some compliance measures, and then ended up being the first compliance coordinator out there that had a clinical focus. So, in the world of compliance, they're often looking at their return on investment in dollars, but they then realized we have no way to really know, are these quality services? Is this the right treatment plan? Is this the right things that are happening? Then I was able to kind of combine that social worker hat and go in and start overseeing some of the clinical compliance through these providers, and that then brought me out here to Schaumburg.
Well, I'm
Mm.
so excited to hear you share that piece, Quinn, with your time at the McHenry Mental Health Board. I think we often get lost in the administrative data of did we check the
Yes.
box, yes or no, versus truly looking at outcomes, which is what you're
Yeah.
describing is, are the people we're supporting and serving better off because of the services and supports that the community is providing? And
Yeah.
so I think that you took it to a next step there with McHenry County. How did you get involved with mental health?
Oh gosh, I think probably just my own upbringing and then my own lived experience. I think that's probably how tons of us end up in social work is there's that lived experience piece somewhere along the lines where we know someone. I mean, really, it was growing up in an area where mental health was not talked about. And then I ended up going straight into the military, and I just saw person after person have this struggle and was always in an environment where we just don't talk about it. We have to be okay. We're just gonna keep trucking along here, and then that only works for so long. I found that I then started having my own struggles, but more than that, it was like, okay, how do I go and get an education and put myself in a position where in all of these situations I can normalize it or try to support everyone around me who just seems like we're just going to keep wearing this mask and be okay. So, yeah, stumbled into social work through that, just the empathetic piece of wanting to normalize and support others.
So you really painted an interesting picture that I can certainly relate to is just the whole notion of we don't talk about it,
Mhm.
kind of suck it up and
Yeah.
just get through it, get through life. Hey, we all have hard things in life that we deal with, and let's just
Yeah.
move along. But to truly see that real need of folks struggling when there is ways to seek help, there's ways to seek support that you don't have to live that way. I mean, I personally had some struggles in my own life with my family life. My father had severe depression. And as a kid, if you were to ask me, do you know your dad has severe depression? I would say, what are you talking about? Like,
Right.
this is just how we
Yeah.
live. This
Mhm.
is just how life is. It wasn't until I was an adult reflecting back on it and realized, oh my gosh, like this is like that was sad that we live
Yeah.
that way. Very loving person, and eventually he did get help. But that said, is especially in that generation grew up with, like we don't talk about feelings. We don't talk about feelings of anxiety, sadness, depression, just even trauma in general of what folks may have witnessed or experienced. So with that, you had this path that led to you wanting to go into social work. Where'd you go to school?
That's what Aurora
Aurora
University is, where
University.
I
Okay.
did, yeah, my
Okay.
bachelor's and master's there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Great. So in this field of social work, you'd touched on something about moving into like the macro level,
Yeah.
and moving away from like the frontline clinical. piece, like, what was that turning point for you?
I was someone who very quickly burned out. As a veteran, I was then working at a nonprofit serving homeless veterans, and I was taking it home. There was no clocking out. I was taking calls all hours of the night, and it was always really heavy stuff that
Mm.
someone's on the street, they're hungry, they're cold, there's serious mental health concerns. It didn't feel like there was enough support built in, so I was just so new that I didn't have any of those tools to protect myself or know how to put boundaries in place, so then I just kind of ended up enmeshed with work, which was then dangerous for myself. I
Yeah.
ended up suicidal, just a shell of a human, and still doing that. I'm just going to pull myself up by my bootstraps. I have to show up. There's people who need me. But then, yeah, through burnout, it was then I had to shift gears. I'm like, okay, I have to take a couple steps back. I mean, back and forth, I've kind of dabbled in direct service and I really enjoy it, but then I'm someone who I just so quickly throw myself in all the way and don't do good with those boundaries of keeping removed. I just felt like you need these voices in macro work that I've done direct service, so I say I'm just as much as an advocate for our providers whenever it comes to the board. I oversee our providers and work for the board, but it's also I am that connection where I can also humanize the work and humanize the providers whenever the board's doing oversight. That's where I've really kind of enjoyed macro is found that I can just give voice to more people on this side.
Yeah, I mean, thank you, one, for being vulnerable, Quinn, and sharing that story. And
Mm.
clearly, you have a lot of lived experience to truly humanize the folks that we're
Yeah,
supporting. You wanted to go upstream, so to
yeah,
speak.
yeah,
Of like one-on-one is great, and there definitely needs to be clinicians that are doing the one-on-one. And at the same time, when you don't have funding or don't have the resources to even have those
yeah,
supports available, then it's meaningless because it doesn't exist. So
right.
now you're in a role where you're creating significant meaning for the entire community. What's that like?
It's amazing. That's what I think I finally found my place. There was always in past roles like something where it was just like, okay, this is nice, but the shirt still doesn't quite fit. Like there's just something else missing. And that's what now I feel like, okay, I'm in my home. I found my place where this feels like really meaningful work. I love the relationships I'm building with the providers here. Their passion, I think that's the big thing. The passion the providers bring is what just keeps me fueled. I working for them is powerful. It's you're making a difference. There's sometimes where it's like, yeah, the administrative work can get you down and you just get buried in it. I think you probably feel that where as CEO, it's like you get a lot of the not so fun work. But I imagine that, yeah, when you look down the ranks and you see the difference being made, then that's just puts wind back in your sails and it's what keeps you doing the work because it's meaningful and somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to be out here advocating for these providers because, yeah, we do have workforce shortage and we don't have enough people doing the work. But we also have a system that's making it pretty thankless. And you have people doing really difficult work in the trenches, and then they're not being compensated fairly for it. So it's like, well, they can't even make ends meet for their own family. How do you go and keep being in a position of service? So that's where advocating and humanizing the work is what is so meaningful to me.
Well, I have to affirm, Quinn, from Little City, you are making a difference. At least at Little City,
Oh,
I could tell.
thank you.
I could speak
Yeah,
to that.
yeah,
I can't speak to. I'm just assuming you're
yeah.
making a difference with all the other organizations, but you are truly making a difference for the people we support at Little City. One thing that I think, if I was a listener and not really familiar with what a mental health board is, can you explain, like, what is the Schaumburg Township Mental Health Board? Like, what are we even talking about? And when you talk about the work with providers, what do you mean by providers? To the typical person who may not be
Yeah.
involved in our world or our industry, How would you describe that?
Mental health board is a special purpose subunit of government, so they get passed on a referendum that goes to vote, and the taxpayers of that taxing body approve or don't approve the addition of an additional levy for a community mental health fund. And the mental health board can fund community-based providers for mental health services, substance use, and intellectual and developmental disabilities. So the intention is that we localize services, and a mental health board becomes an expert on the community that they're working for, and they can bring in the services necessary to fill any gaps in that area in those 3 service areas. So we end up with a tax levy, so taxpayer dollars go right back into the community, and I mean, we just end up being the closest form of government to the people that at state level, federal level, I think that's where you lose that human touch, that it all just becomes paper applications and numbers. The provider piece is those are our community partners. Those are the agencies out in the trenches doing the hard work. Those are the providers that then receive funding from the mental health board to provide services to our residents.
Through that tax levy, correct me if I'm wrong, that the funding that's collected through taxes funds the mental health board, then you pass those funds on to the providers within the community so that they can provide services and supports for people who have mental health and intellectual and developmental disabilities. I just had to speak to this again, the impact that your mental health board has had on Little City. So just to put things in a context, most funding for the services and supports that we provide come from the state. But those funds are just to fund bare basic minimum, bare bones, have a physical human being present so that way that person is cared for, especially if they have an intellectual and developmental disability, making sure they get their medications, making sure that they have the food and are being cared for throughout the day. That said, we've been challenging ourselves that we want to move from being caregivers to really skill developers
Yeah.
and helping folks build skills and not just simply provide basic care. And some of those services that we have specifically in Schaumburg in our countryside program, which is where our adult day services are, we have therapies, music therapy. That's not funded by the state. That is because we found that the individuals that are being served and supported in that program truly benefit from some of these services.
Yeah.
And your township funds these types of services. So that's where the one could ask as a taxpayer,
Yeah.
well, isn't the state covering these funds? And from your experience, are other organizations funded through the state or from the federal government that help provide these services? What's your take? Is that something you're seeing?
That's what I mean, you just summed it up perfectly. It's bare bones. I mean, that's what I think our funds can help take something from. I think there's probably a perception that community day services are like an adult daycare. We can drop them off, we can know they're safe, I can go to work. But I mean, we want more than that. We want these individuals to have opportunity and not just be plopped in some location for the day so that we know that they're safe and cared for. And that's part of what we're seeing Little City do is there is new innovative things happening. And that's what I always say. Bring me your wildest ideas because we do have some flexibility in our funding where we can fund innovation and new ideas. And you all are the experts. That's the other thing I say is bring me your wild ideas because you're the experts. You're the ones that have been out here doing this for years amongst all the red tape and it would be really great if we could do this, but we don't have the funds for it because it's not an approved expense. Okay, then let's try it. Let's try to pilot this or see what that looks like because ultimately it's going to be the individuals you serve that benefit. But I definitely see that is I say our intellectual and developmental disability providers, they are working pennies on the dollar. It is night and day. Mental health services, I see they are getting much more an hour than our disability providers, which is just a shame to me that we are still this upside down.
Well, and you really hit on the head, Quinn, and that's where certainly your creativity and involvement with the supporting us, that's why our team said we got to have Quinn on this
No.
podcast. So you fulfilled that duty. You have
No,
yes,
thank you.
your creativity, flexibility of looking at how do we fund the gap
Yeah,
of the need, and I think again, speaking back to what you were sharing, when it comes to the bare bones supports that we provide folks, we're not in the babysitting business. We're
right.
not in just watching your loved one throughout the day just to make sure they don't get hurt
Yeah,
business. We're in the skill development business and really helping folks who have intellectual and developmental disabilities and mental health challenges have a meaningful
yeah,
life. And it brings me back to something you said in the very beginning is about
yeah.
being human. Tell me more about why you feel the need to say that piece.
Think about any interaction you have with someone. I mean, you shake their hand and it's like, "Oh, well, what do you do?" And we're instantly put into our roles or, "Well, what do you do for work?" And we start losing that human piece of ourselves that I'd say I'm a mom and, well, I'm the executive director at the Schaumburg Township Mental Health Board. But really, we're all so much more than those roles that we, perform, the hats that we wear, and it's comes down to we're really human at the beginning and end of it. We all have those same basic needs of food, water, shelter, of love and safety. We have that in common with everyone that we interact with. We may not be on the same side of politics. We may not cheer for the same sports team. We may not agree on any number of things, but I think at the end of the day, if we start stripping all of that back and we remember that we're human, then you can start bridging a lot of gaps. You can start, building some bridges on some huge divides that we're seeing. And I think that in your line of work, you probably see it. That's what I love coming to Little City and getting out and seeing your programs because they're all excited to see me. That's why there's a lot of rooms I go into that people may not be excited to see me, but you come here and that's what I am to them. That's what I am to these individuals is just another human who is stopping by for a visit. And I think it's a good reminder that that's what all of us are first.
I love that. The part that I seem to just try to struggle with is how do you
Yeah.
convey that to somebody? May not see the value or benefit for what you're doing at the mental
Yeah.
health board or what we're doing at Little City sometimes. I think in theory, people say, like, well, that, people who have intellectual and developmental disabilities, yeah, of course we believe in supporting them. At the same time, the question comes into play is, like, well, then how are they supported? When we talk about things such as taxes and where your
Yeah.
dollars go, finding a way to convey that in a way, as much as I don't like paying taxes,
Yeah.
spinning it in a way that this is my contribution to the community and it's actually funding direct supports to other people. I don't know if that's the selling message, but certainly what I've come to learn is when I look at my own tax bill
Yeah.
of like, okay, where this is going to my kid's school district, this is going to the mental health board, and I know now like that's my contribution to society. And so I think
Yeah.
that's, I don't know. That's just my pedestal here that I'm getting on and
Yeah.
sharing that piece because it just seems that back to your comment of being human, it's so easy to just assume that someone else can just figure it out on their own, that they can just pull themselves up from their struggles.
Yeah.
And we have the natural feeling or natural need to belong. How do we include everybody in this belonging so it's not divided by opinions or divided by, as you said, party or divided by what sports team? How do we include everybody in this solution so that way we look at human first?
My answer for it is just keep doing it. I think there's always going to be people that don't agree with that, who get very in the numbers or is like, okay, this is all cute, bleeding heart stuff. But for me, it's just like there's nothing after the but. It's just being a good human. Why do we need to make that political? Why do we need to put a price tag on that? That's what it's gonna vary because, of course, it's by home value, but the taxes, like, a common number here is $30. $30 a year? I see the impact of that $30 a year. Take my money. There's people that spend more than that. We can use the cup of coffee analogy. There's people that spend more than that at Starbucks every week. $30 is nothing. And I mean, if anybody wants to know what that impact looks like, you can click on these websites. You can ask me. I get the reports. I think that's a big one is the stories that providers share, that's the big impact, is sometimes the numbers and the outcomes, it's like, that may not translate in a report. Those don't always look nice and neat, but that's because we work with humans. I mean, you're not gonna see 100% improved. You're not gonna see everyone's doing stellar, because even when you're providing supports, people are human and they're gonna backslide, they're gonna have bad days, and maybe their bad week is the week you are evaluating them, and so their outcome does not look like they're really doing that well in services. That's the human piece I bring to work is, okay, if something doesn't look great on paper, then I can just have the conversation with the other humans doing the work and figure out, okay, well, what's going on with the humans you're working with? That's really what it comes down to. Have a conversation
Yeah.
about it.
Well, and to that point, Quinn, I think the part I'm hearing you say in some ways is also about the prevention services for those in the community. In some ways, and actually a lot of ways, by not providing these services and supports, it actually costs the community far more. So it's
Yeah.
actually saving the community money. So if you're talking about the $30 that one is contributing each year, that is saving who knows how many hundreds of dollars that we would have to
Yeah.
pay because of there being higher crime, higher homelessness, higher folks utilizing the ERs so that if you
Yes.
need to use the ER, now you can't because there's not a free bed because there's someone who is in crisis that can't get the supports because the supports are not being funded. So it seems like it's even in some ways a preventative measure that you're looking at in addition to providing interventions.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, that's the goal is to start doing some more on the prevention side. I think that's something that definitely gets overlooked. I think that we're at this time where there's so much crisis that we keep showing up. I'd say it's like we're a bunch of firefighters. Like, put the hose on it. Where's the fire extinguisher? And we're so busy about putting out the fires of crisis that it's the whole adage of going upstream and figuring out why people are still being thrown in. It's like, well, what is going on upstream? And let's start putting some remedy toward that so that we can quit being in firefighter mode all the time and addressing crisis all the time because that's where so many resources are going right now is crisis. I mean, it's valuable, it's necessary, but yeah, what can we start preventing so that we're not just dumping everything into crisis right now?
That is the trend, is just
Yeah,
more people in crisis? Is that what you're seeing? Are you
definitely a
seeing
lot of resources going toward crisis. Even in just some of the collaborative meetings I attend, that's a whole focus area is just crisis systems. We're not talking about prevention. We're talking about treatment and crisis, but we're not talking about prevention. And I think that we got to start prioritizing that.
makes complete sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you had advice to give others who may be listening to this podcast and how to access mental health services, services for folks who have intellectual and developmental disabilities, and they may live in the Schaumburg Township area, what advice would you give?
Looking for services. If you're a Schaumburg Township resident, visit referralgps.com/TOSMHB. That is a free care navigation. The Mental Health Board is funding Referral GPS to do care navigation for all of our residents. If you're looking for um, just mental health treatment, if you're looking for med management, if you're looking for behavioral health services, and you're not sure where to go, then you can get free care navigation services. And that works with any form of insurance, uninsured, underinsured, Medicaid, Medicare. Um, Anybody can use that for free care navigation. There is a small treatment fund for anybody who might be experiencing some financial barriers to accessing services. Outside of that, You can reach out to me at the mental health board and I can try to help provide some referrals if you're just looking for a local provider. Yeah, and I guess biggest thing is just don't be afraid to ask for help. I think that's a big one. There's still so much stigma. I can't believe in 2025 I'm saying that, but we still have people afraid to access services and we still have a lot of that mentality out there of we're all okay, just pull yourself up by the bootstraps and keep going. But it is okay to ask for help, and help is out there. There's great providers out there that are still in the trenches doing this work and are really passionate about it and want to help. So don't be afraid to ask for help is, yeah, another big one.
Well, thank you, Quinn. It truly, again, has been a pleasure meeting you. I've heard, again, so many great things about you,
Yours.
and it's all been verified and validated for sure. Not
Thank you.
that my opinion matters with this, but I will say that I can't thank you enough for your leadership and partnership and helping support the folks at Little City as well as the Schaumburg community. I really believe this. Again, I'll say it before, is that the folks that we're supporting are better off because of the township mental health board, the Schaumburg Township Mental Health Board,
Oh my
the
gosh, yeah.
resources that we're receiving. And we just are incredibly grateful for that. And we look forward to continuing to partner in any way we can to help
Yeah.
support the need for our community. Unless you have final thoughts, Gwen, do you have any final things you
Oh
want to say?
gosh, just
Yeah.
thanks for having me. There I say this was fun conversation, and as I told you earlier, that's why I love working with your team. They are wonderful. Everyone here has a smile on their face. I love coming out here to visit, and as I said, I think that is a direct reflection of you and your leadership. So, thank you for what you bring to Little City, and thank Little City for what they bring to our residents.
Well, thank you, Quinn. You do have an amazing team. It has been truly a pleasure, Quinn, talking with you, and I can't thank you enough. I just want you to know your voice is big. At Little City, every voice matters, and your story helps shape a more compassionate and inclusive world. Stay tuned for more voices, more stories, and more meaning. Visit us on our website at littlecity.org. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. We're always looking for others to join our mission and share their time, talent, and treasure.
Little City is a nonprofit, for-purpose organization operating for over 65 years, serving children and adults with autism, intellectual and developmental disabilities, as well as those experiencing mental health challenges. We offer services in Chicago and the surrounding suburbs, with our main service areas located in Palatine, Illinois. We provide residential living arrangement services for children and adults, a therapeutic day school, adult community enrichment and day services, recreational services including amazing arts, horticulture, and special recreation, employment, foster care and adoption, and community mental health. Visit littlecity.org for more information.